All aboard! Welcome to Immigration Station, where every oleh is a passenger on the Aliyah Express, and I'm your conductor Moshe. Please have your tickets ready. That's your motivation for moving to Israel. And remember that this is a journey, not a destination. Some of you are just boarding. Some of you are halfway through your trip. And some of you are wondering if you missed your stop 3 stations ago. But seriously, folks, I've been thinking about Aliyah as this giant train station where we're all travelers at different points in our immigration journey. And like any good train station, it's full of interesting characters, delayed departures, lost luggage, and people asking for directions to places that might not actually exist. Let me give you the station tour. Over here at Platform 1, we have the just arrived passengers. Easy to spot because they're dragging enormous suitcases, clutching their documentation like their lives depend on it, and looking around with that expression that says, "I've made a terrible mistake or the best decision of my life, but I won't know which for about 6 months." I love the just arrived passengers. They still have that new oleh energy. Everything is an adventure. The grocery store is fascinating. The bus system is charmingly confusing. They take photos of street signs and send them to their families with captions like, "Look, everything is in Hebrew. I'm really doing this." Yesterday, I watched a just-arrived passenger spend 20 minutes trying to figure out how to buy a bus ticket. Not because it's complicated, but because they were so excited about using Hebrew that they kept practicing their pronunciation with the machine. Kartis, 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 over and over, like they were casting a Hebrew spell. Over at Platform 2, we have the 6-month veterans, passengers who've been on the train long enough to develop opinions about everything, but not long enough to realize that having opinions and being right are 2 different things. These are the passengers who will confidently give you directions to places they've been to once, explain Israeli politics based on 3 news articles they half understood, and argue about which hummus is best, despite having tried maybe 4 different kinds. "Oh, you just arrived? Let me tell you about Israeli culture," says the 6-month veteran, who yesterday asked me where to buy peanut butter and is now explaining the historical significance of falafel. But I love their enthusiasm. They're like eager middle children, not new enough to be helpless, not experienced enough to be jaded. They're in that sweet spot where everything still feels discoverable but also manageable. Platform 3, the year-and-a-half crowd. This is where things get interesting. The year-and-a-half passengers have been on the train long enough to hit their first major culture shock wall. That moment when the novelty wears off and you realize this isn't an extended vacation, this is your actual life now. These passengers are having phone calls with friends back home that start with, "I love it here, but..." They're dealing with their first Israeli bureaucratic nightmare, their first major misunderstanding due to language barriers, their first moment of homesickness that isn't cute and nostalgic but actually painful. "I thought I'd be fluent in Hebrew by now," they say. "I thought I'd have figured out the social dynamics. I thought I'd feel more settled." The year-and-a-half station is crucial, because this is where passengers decide whether they're really committed to the journey or whether they want to catch the next train back to wherever they came from. It's the first real test of whether this is home or just a really long adventure. Platform 4, the 3-year seasoned travelers. These passengers have been through the year-and-a-half crisis and came out the other side. They've survived their first Israeli summer, navigated their first major holiday season away from family, and learned that Hebrew fluency is less about perfect grammar and more about confident improvisation. 3-year passengers are the ones who give the best advice, because they remember being confused but are far enough past it to find it funny. They're the ones who will tell you, "Oh, you're crying because you can't figure out how to pay your electric bill. That's totally normal. Here, let me show you the app." They've developed their own Israeli routines, their own favorite places, their own friend groups that mix other olim with native Israelis. They're not tourists anymore. But they're not quite locals either. There's something in between, something uniquely their own. Platform 5. The 5-plus-year lifers. These are the passengers who've been on the train so long that they sometimes forget they ever lived anywhere else. They dream in Hebrew, they argue about politics like their vote actually matters, and they get genuinely offended when people criticize Israeli customer service. What do you mean Israeli bureaucracy is complicated? They say to newer passengers. It's not complicated, it's just thorough. And besides, have you tried dealing with American health insurance? At least here, everything is transparent. 5-plus-year passengers are the ones who've learned to love this place, not despite its quirks, but because of them. They appreciate Israeli directness. They understand the cultural logic behind things that seem illogical to newcomers, and they've developed that particularly Israeli superpower of complaining about everything, while simultaneously being fiercely protective of their right to live here. But here's what I love about Immigration Station. We're all helping each other navigate this journey. The 5-year passengers remember what it was like to be confused about bus routes, so they help the just-arrived passengers figure out public transportation. The 3-year passengers share their hard-won wisdom about which government offices are actually helpful and which ones are just elaborate performance art pieces designed to test your patience. The 6-month veterans buddy up with the just-arrived passengers because they remember feeling completely lost and want to pay forward the help they received. And even the just-arrived passengers contribute something valuable. They remind the rest of us why we chose this journey in the first place. Their excitement about discovering Israeli culture helps the long-term passengers remember what's special about this place that we might have started taking for granted. Platform 6. The return visitors. There's also a special platform for people who tried the Aliyah journey, decided it wasn't for them, and moved back to their home countries, but come to visit. These passengers have a unique perspective. They know what it's like to make Aliyah, and they know what it's like to unmake it. I couldn't make it work, they tell current passengers, but I'm so glad you're making it work. And honestly, some days I wonder if I gave up too soon. These passengers remind us that immigration is a choice we make every day, not just once. They help normalize the idea that it's okay if Israel doesn't work out for everyone. And they celebrate those of us for whom it does work out, the information booth. In the center of Immigration Station, there's this information booth staffed by veteran olim who've appointed themselves as unofficial guides for confused passengers. These are the people who maintain the WhatsApp groups, organize the meetups, and somehow know the answer to every random question about Israeli life. How do I register for Hebrew class? There's an app for that. Let me show you. Where can I find American-style peanut butter? Aisle 7 at the big supermarket, but it's expensive. And also you should try the Israeli chocolate spread because it's better. Is it normal to feel completely overwhelmed? Completely normal. Here's the number for an English-speaking therapist, and also there's a support group that meets on Thursdays. That's the beautiful thing about Immigration Station. Nobody travels alone. Even when you feel lost or confused or homesick, you're surrounded by people who've been exactly where you are and people who are heading exactly where you're going. The Aliyah Express never really stops. New passengers are always boarding, experienced passengers are always moving to new cars, and everyone's journey looks a little different, but we're all on the same train, heading toward the same general destination, home. So whether you're just arrived with your enormous suitcases, or you're a 5-year veteran helping someone else figure out the ticket machine, remember that Immigration Station is a community. We're all here to help each other navigate this wild, wonderful, occasionally frustrating journey of making Israel home. I'm Conductor Moshe, this has been Immigration Station, and next week we'll explore the lost and found. All the things Olim lose in the immigration process, besides their minds. and all the unexpected things they find instead. Until then, keep your tickets handy, help your fellow passengers, and remember that every train journey has delays, unexpected stops, and beautiful views you never saw coming. All aboard the journey of a lifetime. Next stop, home, however long it takes to get there.